Men, you may think you're looking at the sprocket shaft bearing race Boss on a 1970 XL-H crankcase. What you're really looking at is a tragedy. These cases are really generally in pretty good shape. There's a few small cracks, and actually there's one I hadn't noticed until now when I put lights on it to do this video. There's a crack here too. But anyway, apparently what happened at some point in the past is the Timken bearing race spun, and you know, it ate up just enough metal in here so that it wouldn't fit tight anymore, and all these little welts, it looks like somebody dimpled it to, you know, every time you put a punch in there, it raises little welts, so they punched it all over, literally hundreds of times, to raise the surface of the steel a little bit so that the race would fit tightly. And in fact, when I knocked the race out, it came out of there pretty tight, so that part of the job was working. Also, I would assume that when the race spun, it cracked this portion of the retainer ring groove out. So now the retainer is only retained on about half of its diameter, and the boss is screwed up with all these welts on it. If it hadn't been for this damage, I would have said that this crankcase was an excellent candidate for you know, restoration back to original condition. It would have been worth spending a lot of money on. I happen to like 70. I think 70 is a good year, but this kind of ruins it. I know of no real good way to repair this thing. Of course, I told the owner about it, and I says, you know, what you want to do is up to you. It could do nothing. I said I would do at least a couple of things to it. I said, but option one is do nothing. I don't know of any option where this, well, at least this repair I've never done, where, you know, the steel insert could be machined out and a new one shrunk fit in there. I suppose that's possible. I haven't done it, and I don't want to experiment on this case to give it a try. You know, I told the guy, I says, the other thing I could do for you is I've got that Loctite sleeve retaining compound. That stuff works pretty good. I could slop it up with that pretty good. And the other thing I could do is drill 3 holes on the juncture between the aluminum and the steel, or on the edge of the steel, and put some button head screws in there to retain the bearing race. I'd only be able to get in, you know, like a number 10 screw. How effective that would be in terms of if this thing got loose holding it in, I don't know. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to set it up on the lathe. I'm going to use the DRO to, you know, center find the hole and set up a 3-screw pattern around the edge. I'm going to counterbore down a little bit so that the heads of the screws could, you know, penetrate below the surface of this boss and impinge on the retainer ring, and hopefully that'll fix this up for this guy, at least as good as he wants it to be. You know, this is going to be one of them bar cruising weekend only kind of bikes. I've done similar repair on other engines, and to my knowledge it's still holding. So we're going to go set this up on the milling machine, drill the holes, and give it a try. And I guess now that I found it, I have to weld this crack over here. I looked these things over, and I did make a couple other small repairs, but I didn't see this one until I put light on it. Anyway, that's what we're going to go do. See you in a little bit. Alright, I got my DRO set up to put a 3-hole circle in it. I'm not good at using that thing. It took some experimentation. I wanted to get at least 2 holes in the part where the groove was broken out. Anyway, I think I got it. I'm going to center drill it right now, and well, I went around once just to test it, but I got everything clamped down right now, so I want to center driller right here, and I'm going to put a pilot drill in a minute. I'm going to make some special washers. I'll show you what they're for a little later. So let's face off a piece of steel rod. Alright, I need to put a step on one side of these washers. So I'm going to move in until the mill touches, zero the x-axis on the DRO, go in another 40, and I'm just going to eyeball the height. Height looks pretty good to me. Just now touching. Zero the X. Move over 40 thou. And theoretically, that should be it. All right, going to take this out of here, take it over to the lathe, and part off a 1/100,000th thick washer. All right, I got the parting tool set even with the end of my bar stock. I got a dial indicator set up over here. We're going to go in a 100 thou. That's 100 thou. Lock it down. Beautiful. I'm going to do my last couple of bits of show and tell on this crankcase before I start putting it back together again. See these marks over here? The flywheel was rubbing on the crankcase. I suspect it was probably when this bearing spun you know, gave it some lateral chuck, so to speak, and it was rubbing on the crankcase over here. Okay, these flywheels have already been trued and the rod race is lapped. So these are together and ready to go. And it's not the kind of thing that shows up real good on camera, but I'll try to show you. Here is some unblemished surface in through here. Okay, now here is, this is kind of interesting. Here is where the flywheel was rubbing on the crankcase. And you see over here where there's no rub marks? These are hammer marks. I suppose these are from a previous truing job, but these were hammered, the flywheels were dented, so these areas are just a little lower than the surrounding areas. So the surrounding areas are rubbing, but the hammer marks are not. And you can see it rubbed all around and through here. And the rest of it is basically okay. A few hammer marks, not unusual to see. When I'm smacking these things, I have a pretty heavy brass hammer that I use, and between the hammer and the flywheel, I got some flat pieces of aluminum I put in there to keep from damaging the flywheels any more than they already are, and most of them show some damage. But I think for today, I am out of here. Prelim cleanup and all that is done. I'm waiting for a couple of parts to start putting it back together again. One of the parts I'm waiting for is a rear engine mount because, of course, the old one is cracked. We're going to give them a little final cleanup and make sure everything is ready to go for the day when the parts arrive. I am out of here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.